Toss aside the touchy-feely notions of love in business and recognize the real power it holds. Welcome to the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast with host Steve Farber. Drawing on his work with a wide variety of companies from the Fortune 100 to smaller family-owned businesses, Farber shares inspiring interviews with business leaders and proven strategies for how you can create experiences that your customers will love by developing a culture that your employees, teammates, and colleagues love working in. Discover why and how love, at the end of the day, is just damn good business for you too. Here's your host, Steve Farber.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast. I'm your host, Steve Farber, and this podcast, as usual, is brought to you by the Extreme Leadership Institute, which is not a coincidence because I happen to be the founder and CEO of that company. Come and visit what we do, visit us and see what we do, I think is the better way to say it, at extremeleadership.com. You'll find lots of resources there, some great case studies. We're all about helping organizations to operationalize love, energy, audacity, and proof, or the radical leap. I almost said the radical reap, which would be a sequel. The radical leap framework to their organizations to incredible results. My guest today is Mauricio Mejia. He's my new friend. We're just getting to know each other. Mauricio is a very accomplished entrepreneur. He's a restaurant owner. He's a real estate mogul. He's a creator of jobs. He's an investor. He's a speaker. And in a former life, he was a nightlife promoter and owner of the successful Ultra Lounge in Silicon Valley, where he still resides. However, he's a trailblazer. That's another word that's hard to say, in his own career, and created his own success in many different ways. He started in the nightlife industry, and then his career has kind of woven its way into the real estate business, selling, purchasing, building both homes and commercial buildings. He built a highly successful staffing company called California Labor Force, which has 6 offices throughout California, employs over 1,000 employees on any given day. And at the same time that he's running that operation, he co-founded the Cal Pacific Contractors Construction Company. And through his life's journey, which is not the typical kind of story of a so-called mogul you would expect, he started in the gang world. He went from a gangbanger to a millionaire to homelessness and ultimately creating a business empire. And throughout all of that, he really developed, and you'll see this just emanates from him, the compassion and the empathy and love for doing more to propel others to economic leadership and lifestyle success. And that creativity and drive led him to produce cultural events such as the Cesar Chavez Annual Scholarship Breakfast, the Latino Leadership Alliance Annual Dinner Gala in Silicon Valley. He sits on the board of the Cesar Chavez Family Vision and the PAL board, and he's always maintained the importance of giving back to his community and increasing his contributions as his own achievements grow. He's got a new book coming out soon called Still Standing. His existing books are Smoke and Mirrors and Decide, Commit, Execute. I encourage you to check those out on Amazon. We'll put the links in here. But for now, please welcome to the podcast, Mauricio Mejia. Hey, man. So glad you're here.
Good morning. Wow, thank you. I always love to hear what someone else has to say about me. And Steve, thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to start a new friendship and a new journey together. So thank you very much for having me here today.
It's my pleasure. You know, our listeners, for the most part, are on some level, you know, they're here. If you think of the name of this podcast, Love is Just Damn Good Business. You know, we tend to attract people that already kind of get that on either on an instinctual level or just a full-on, you know, practice. It's the way that they operate every day. So what we try to do here is really help folks understand what that looks like and, you know, how we can go about practicing it, putting it into play. So it's not just an empty idea or an empty sentiment, but really more of a practice and a discipline. And
Absolutely.
your story keeps coming back to the heart. And I would just love for you to tell us your amazing story, starting, take us in the Wayback Machine.
Wow.
Starting way back when, and just give us the arc of your journey so far.
I might get emotional there for a minute, but I just want to just, and I'm very open. I know that when we talked in the past, I do get emotional when I touch it because it still feels like it was yesterday. And because I speak from my heart, and I wear it. When I talk about my family, my upbringing, it's like I'm reliving it. So I grew up with a single mom, born in San Francisco, and raised in Los Angeles, though. So when I was 3 years old, my sister was born. We moved to Los Angeles. And then I moved to the Silicon Valley in 1993, 94. So I always say, born in San Francisco, raised in Los Angeles, and educated in the Silicon Valley. So I have the best of three worlds all in one. And I've used all of my experiences to guide me and to keep me going to where I'm going. And that for me is to make an impact and to share my story with others, versus holding it on and never get to tell my story. So started, in LA as a young child. My single mom. My mother was always working because she had to put a roof over our head. My sister and I. She was a hairdresser, so you can imagine in the early 80s, mid 80s, being a hairdresser, the kind of income that she was making, and and at the same time growing up in that era. It was we were what was known as the latchkey kids, because when parents were at home, we were we had to lock the door at home. And so my sister and I, we were a product of that and grew up in a neighborhood in a barrio called Highland Park, which is a barrio of Los Angeles. You can go back there today and you can walk in the day in flip-flops and you will never recognize because it's not the same. But growing up in that neighborhood, it was gang infested. It was infested with drugs. I mean, there was all kinds of craziness going on. And it's right up against Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights. These are other barrios of Los Angeles. And there's a freeway that splits us. Is the 110 and the 10 freeway down there. And west of the 10 freeway is Compton, Inglewood, South Central, and then above, east of the 10 freeway, you have all these different other barrios. So in LA during those times were very crazy times to grow up. One of the things that I realized growing up with my mother is that my mother was always struggling. And us going to school, we just had enough just to, put clothes on our back. And we were part of the lunch program. We couldn't afford, obviously, to buy our own lunch or pack the lunch. So we were just part of the lunch program. But my mom was a hard worker. And I think that those were the things that were planted in my mind, that I would see how hard she worked. And, education wasn't really pushed. It was more like the fight for your life kind of thing, and seeing that my mom worked hard every day. And I remember one day I going to school, and kids were brutal. We talk about bullying now, but bullying's been around forever. And I remember kids would make fun of other kids and even made fun of me because I wasn't wearing the right shoes or the right clothes, or just kids just being mean. And it's just part of growing up. I don't think it's an intentional thing. I think it's just kids just being mean. And I remember one day I told myself that enough was enough, and I wanted to see how I can contribute. And at 15 years old, the switch clicked on. There was a gentleman, and I can never remember his name. I think it might be Earl, but he was an African-American gentleman. He was from Inglewood, and I remember I met him at a car show. And I was working with this, I was doing these little, selling this car wax for cars. And I was just trying to get in the mix. So you got this cute kid walking around trying to sell these car waxes to these cool cars. And the gentleman looked at me. He says, you know, son, he says, you have an entrepreneurial spirit. Now, I'm 14, 15 years old. I don't know what the word entrepreneurial is. And I asked a question. I said, sir, what does entrepreneurial mean? And he said, son, he goes, you're going to do great things. Continue to do what you're doing. And an entrepreneur is someone that creates and wants more in life and doesn't settle. And that stuck with me. And I remember that it was like seeds being planted. My mother at a young age too said, son, you know, if you want to be successful, during the 80s, real estate was a big thing. Get into real estate. You're either an attorney, a doctor, or in real estate. And obviously I wasn't going to be a doctor and I wasn't interested in doing law, but real estate was something that was planted in my mind.
I just
go ahead.
Interject just for a second. What strikes me about that, Mauricio, is so here you are selling car wax.
Yeah.
A stranger comes up to you and says, young man, you have an entrepreneurial spirit. And there was something that could have been it.
Yeah.
Right. But there was something already in you. Well, obviously, because you were there selling stuff and that's what he recognized. But there was something in you that asked the question, what does entrepreneurial mean? Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of kids, at that age, it's just like, it's a word. I'll either pretend I understand it or I don't really care. It's just some stranger talking to me. But there was something in you that asked that question, which led you down that path.
Yeah, something woke my spirit up. There's a higher power that's guiding us. And I think that man was brought into my life for a reason. And he turned on that switch. And once he turned on that switch, my curiosity only grew. Now, at 15 years old, growing up in the hood and being exposed to gangs and the drugs, I could have taken down that path. So I got entangled in some gangs and stuff like that, but I never got into gangs. But I got exposed to them. So I never went through that. But I learned being in those circles for a very short period of time in my life that they were looking for something similar, except that they found a way to channel that energy, which was through violence and other ways. And for me, I was looking for acceptance and love because I didn't feel that I had the structure at home. Now, in that era, gangs were recruiting young children because there was a lot of these growth. There was a lot of things that were happening during the 80s in this country. So in retrospect, when I look back, I'm like, oh man, I remember when that was happening. There was a lot, drugs were the 80s were a huge drug era, for the United States. So these gangs were recruiting young kids so that they could be the distributors. Well, something in my heart and in my mind guided me that wasn't the right thing to do, and thank God I never went down that path. But what I did get caught up into was I got introduced to nightlife, and that was what caught my attention. Now, nightlife, I fell in love with the glitz and the glamour, and the fact that I got to see a lot of money being made from the people that were promoters in the nightlife industry. At a very young age, I got, again, someone saw talent in me, and whether it was genuine or not, they saw talent and they reached out and they asked me to be a part of their circle. Now, I started from the bottom. I started passing out flyers, going out around the parking lots because we didn't have social media back then. So we had to do it old school style. You get a flyer and you put it on the windshield, and that's how we got the message out in these circuits, the nightlife circuits. And at 15 years old, I was in the clubs, in the 18 and over clubs with a fake ID. And at 16, I was in the 21 and 16, 17, I was in the 21 and over clubs with a fake ID. And I was already producing events. At 16 years old, I had the #1 18 and over nightclub. At 18 years old, I had the #1 21 and over nightclub. And I wasn't even 21. So, but I was able to latch on to the people that were successful. And I was like a little sponge, and I just wanted to learn. And that's all I wanted to learn. And And I remember crazy that I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. At a young age, I remember there was these commercials, these infomercials or something that would be playing on the radio where there's a will, there's a way.
I remember those, yeah.
And when I heard where there's a will, there's a way, again, I'm this young soul that is just absorbing. I'm somehow, again, I'm being protected from the negativity around and the surroundings, but I'm paying attention to the effects of all those negative energies. But the positive, I keep absorbing the positive. So where there's a will, there's a way, made a huge impact in that affirmation or that saying, whatever it was during that time. And I remember where there's a will, there's a way. And I said, you know what? I want more in life. And I remember when I asked my mom, hey, Mom, prior to me getting into the nightclubs, Mom, Air Jordans were like the big thing. And kids were, if you wore Air Jordans, you were like the cool thing at school. So I remember my mom said I couldn't afford it because, $150, $200 for a pair of tennis shoes, that was a lot of money back then. I mean, and so I remember that it broke my heart because it wasn't that my mom was saying it to disappoint me, but it's just because the priorities were different. So again, that instilled in me and it broke me open to say enough is enough. And I had to make a decision. And once I made that decision, I committed to that decision and then I executed on that. And again, these are things that are brewing in my head at a young age. In retrospect, I look back now, I'm like, wow, this is something that I've been living by all my life. Is now I know how to put it into words. And that's how I've come up with, my latest book, which is, I call it the Entrepreneur's Quick Guide, Decide, Commit, Execute. But again, going back to the early, I got involved in the nightlife but I also knew that I wanted structure in my life because I didn't have structure and I wanted to feel that discipline. So one of my friends was with the LA County Sheriff's Deputy, the Explorer program. And I remember that I enrolled myself into the deputy their sheriff's program, their Explorer program. And that was kind of like a pre-military kind of experience.
And you were how old at this point?
I was 16 years old at that time. 16 years old. And I'm going to clubs already. I'm going to all these parties. And so I'm a promoter at night. And in the weekends, we would go to there was this 21-week boot camp that was in Whittier, California. Actually, not Whittier. Yeah, this one was in Whittier. They had two boot camps, and I was going to the one in Whittier. And every Saturday, we had to be in line in formation by 6 a.m. And ready for inspection. And that was part of the discipline that allowed me. And I was excited because I wanted to excel. I wanted to show people that I'm a fighter and that, and that the streets were not going to conquer me. I was going to conquer the streets and the lifestyle that I had at a young age. Sports was something that I wanted to be in my life. And I was a great athlete. I played football, Pop Warner. I played soccer. I played baseball. In every position I excelled. Sadly, though, my mother was never there to see it because my mom was always working. But even though I was still involved, my mom getting me into the sport, it allowed me to discipline myself and to better myself. And it allowed it to carry me through this journey, this path that I was on. Again, I'm young. I don't know where the future was going, but I know that in my heart of hearts, something was guiding me. So then
at this point, Mauricio, did you, is this when you had the vision of being in the nightlife industry? Was this a concurrent thing, and you did this as a way to give yourself the best chance of succeeding in it, or how does that fit together?
I'm going to say music saved my life. Music, happiness. I say music is the universal language of love. The 80s music was phenomenal. The late 80s, early 90s music was phenomenal because it was going through transformation. I fell in love with music. I fell in love with entertainment. The fact that at a young age, as a teen, I was already going to a teen club in Pasadena. And then I got involved with the social club at my school, and I started organizing the school dances, because I thought the school dances were cheesy. and the way that they were putting them together. And I wanted to put some glitz and glamour because nobody knew that I was already living a different lifestyle. I was very mature for my age. I had, at one point people thought there was a big TV show back in the day called 21 Jump Street. Well, they thought I was an undercover cop in my school because I had facial hair at a young age. I was very mature. I was very different. I dressed differently because I just was. It was just my thing. I had my own fashion. I hung out with all the girls, and I was like this cool kid. Growing up, at least I thought I was this cool kid, right? I was told so.
And you were spending your nights with in the clubs with the fake ID, so you can get in.
Right. So crazy part that when I started the boot camp, two of the drill instructors, real pretty women, drill instructors, I recognized them. I'm like, oh, whoa, I know you guys. And they looked at me because we looked at each other, and they were kind of like, you never saw me here? And I'm like, you never saw me here, because they knew I was underage. And I knew that they shouldn't be in the, we shouldn't be in this environment together. But it was really funny because when we crossed paths, it was just interesting because the following week, those two drill instructors didn't ride my ass as hard as they should have. But it was funny because we caught eyes. But yeah, entertainment. Go ahead.
It pays to know the right people.
That's right. And that was another thing. I had another gentleman in my life that said, Mauricio, you have the gift of gab. And I didn't know what gift of gab meant at the time, but they always said you'll be able to talk your way out of things, or you'll be able to use your way of speaking to people to navigate through certain things. And I started to learn that at a very young age, going through junior high as well. And then going into high school. I went to 4 different high schools because there was a lot of instability in our lives. And when I ended up moving to the Bay Area was because just life started to get a little too crazy. I was getting the nightclub business a little too frequently. The structure wasn't enough. My mom was in a toxic relationship where we lost everything. We were pretty much homeless again, or, felt not having stability. So that to me was a version of a homelessness. And I moved in with a gentleman by the name of Tim Nugent and his son, which I went to high school with. Tim Nugent was a famous movie editor, very well-known movie editor in Hollywood. And I got to work with him. I remember on the weekends when I wasn't at the academy, we would go to the Star Search building. And that was the original kind of like where, America's Got Talent and all that stuff. Star Search was way before all these shows. And I remember you used to sit backstage, or our offices were backstage. And I remember when on the weekends when they weren't filming, I would walk on that stage, the Star Search building, and I would look out into the audience, into the where people sat. And I said to myself, I remember, it gives me chills. I remember looking up there and I said, I'm going to do big things. My day will come. I just don't know what it is. And I was learning at that time, I was an intern. I didn't know what the hell an intern was at that time too. And I asked the question, Tim, what's an intern? Do I get paid for this? He goes, son, he says, when I was working with Steven Spielberg and all these famous directors, he goes, and when I was going through college, I did an internship for all this. And he started labeling. And I remember when the directors like Steven Spielberg would come in because he was doing projects with him. And I would sit there, I'm just the assistant, or I'm like the gopher kid actually, going and grab coffee or whatever. But I'm learning and I'm watching how they do these editings. I mean, it was long hours in the studio. And, but again, I got exposed to a lot of these things and they just planted seeds. And the seeds were my soul just kept nurturing these seeds. And I knew again that I was going to do some great things. Unfortunately, I talk about it in my book, Smoke and Mirrors, which I published this year, right before the pandemic. I talk about it in a chapter of what happened where I had a falling out with the son, and I ended up moving to the Bay Area with family. It was, I think that an angel was definitely on my shoulder and saved me from a split second of possibly making a major mistake in my life and going down a different path, because the streets are still in me. The street smarts and the survival of being on the streets is still inside of me. And I just remember that I wasn't going to let anyone just kind of punk me and try to tell me and degrade me in a manner that was hurtful, because I know the struggles that I've come from, and I know the struggles that that I've experienced. So for me, I wasn't going to allow that to happen.
So when you got to so you had that falling out with your friend, you moved to the Bay Area. Is that when, so you have the Ultra nightclub, which was your big kind of splash in the nightlife industry, right?
Yeah.
So when was that your first kind of major entrepreneurial endeavor, would you say?
No. So when I moved up to the Bay Area, I finished high school up in the Bay Area. Again, education was a big thing about it, but I lived with my cousins who were big on education, and they pushed me to apply for universities or colleges. Now, my dream school was Cal Berkeley, because I wasn't living in the Bay Area, in LA anymore. I always wanted to go to USC. USC was like my dream school. But my second school was Cal Berkeley. Then Cal Berkeley was either Stanford. And then if not, then when I applied, and I applied to all the schools, but I got accepted into San Francisco State and San Jose State University. San Francisco State University had an impacted program for hospitality. And I knew what I wanted to do was get involved in the entertainment world. I wanted to bring my skill set that I learned in LA up to the Bay Area, because I felt that there was a need up here. My cousin used to work for Grams. Is it Steve Grams? I don't know. I think it was Steve Grams Presents, and he was a big promoter in the Bay Area. They used to do all the big Bill Grams. I'm sorry, Bill Grams. Bill Grams Presents. Yes, sorry, Bill Grams Presents. Yes, they used to do big concerts, and my cousin was the head of security for the Bill Grams production. So he knew I had a passion for music. My cousin was into music, and all it did was reinforce my love and passion for music. So I wanted to mirror a Bill Grams, and I wanted to become the next big promoter, concert promoter of the world. It was my dream. I wanted to be around stars, and I wanted to be that person. And so I ended up getting accepted into both San Francisco State and San Jose State. I chose San Jose State because it reminded me of Los Angeles. It was like a little LA. The weather was warmer, even though it's an hour difference in travel. San Francisco and San Jose are like night and day. We have so many microclimates up here. So I got accepted into San Jose, and my first nightclub was known as the Tropicana. But prior to that was back in the 80s when Studio 54 in New York was happening, and all these big disco clubs. The owner of this club, his name is Harry Evans, started what's called Studio 47. So there was a version of Studio 54 on the East Coast, and on the West Coast, Studio 47 was the nightclub here in San Jose. Crazy enough, the building that I'm in right now, back in the early 2000s, they tore it down. They tore down the nightclub, and I actually live in the high-rise that they built on it. So it's funny. I pay homage to my where I started here in the Bay Area, but
you're living on hallowed ground.
That's right. Even my Wi-Fi is the old address, 47 Notre Dame Avenue in San Jose. So I love where it took me. And again, another mentor, another angel came in my life. Harry Evans gave me an opportunity, and 1996 is when I started my journey full force. I had done 3 years of university at San Jose State. I was on my fourth year, I was ready to finish and graduate and take it, finish off. And one day, I walked into in one of my classes, and I just looked at the professors. I looked at I fully loaded myself with classes, and I made a decision again. I made a commitment to myself, and I executed it, and I dropped all my classes. And I knew that school was no longer for me. I was in debt. I was young. I knew what I wanted to do. I was focused on the nightlife. I had a great mentor in my life, and I wanted to take advantage of that. And someone that wanted to teach me. So I went to the roots of learning the business. I learned the permitting. I learned the liquor license. I learned the entertainment permits. I learned A to Z, step by step, how to own and operate a nightclub. So I never looked at myself as an employee. I looked at myself as a junior partner in the company. And I had a lot of love and passion for what I was doing. And I put all of that energy, and we excelled. And from 1996 to 2003, until the building was sold and torn down, I dominated all those years of the nightlife industry here in San Jose. I had number one 18 and over club, number one 21 and over club. And then in 2004, I got my big break. And that's when literally it's a chapter in my book as well. I used to stand in front of one of the corners here in the heart of downtown San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley, Market and Santa Clara Street. And I used to look at this old historical building, and I threw it out to the universe. I said, that building is going to be my building one day, and that's going to be my first nightclub. That's going to be my signature piece. And I threw that out, and it boomeranged back to me, and it came back to my life. And I remember
how long did it take for that to come back to you? So I'm always fascinated when people point to that kind of cause and effect, right? I put it out to the universe. I put my attention on it. I decided that's what I wanted, and then it came back to me. Is it something did you just have a thought one day, or was it something you really focused on for a period of time?
I focused. I focused my energy, my attention, and I put I spoke it out, and I said, that is going to be my building. That is going to be my place, because I knew I wanted to do bigger and greater things, and I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to make that my signature, my to be known. And 1996, when I was promoting on the streets of San Jose, so you're counting 96, 97, 98, 99, you're talking about a minimum of 5 years, 6 years before it started to become real fruition. And I remember we went through the dot-com bust, 2000, and the world had turned upside down. And I remember that that building was just still there, and it was empty. And one day I just woke up, and I said, I'm going to go knock on the door and see what's going on with that building. I knocked on the door. There was a phone number on there. At a young age, I had a cell phone, so I called the number, and this old man comes and opens up the doors, and I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, I didn't know anybody was in here.
You can say shit. That's all right.
All right, cool. Oh, shit. I was like, I didn't know that anybody was in the building. And this old man by the name of Walt Hoffler opens the door, and I smiled, and I said, hey, what's going on with the building? And he welcomed me in the building, and I knew once I walked in, it was home. The building talked to me, if that makes any sense. The building talked to me, it embraced me, and I felt like I was home. I put it out, and my opportunity was now. I sat down with the owner of the building for hours. I would come by at least once to twice a week, hours, and listen to him. And he shared how he created, and he made himself a self-made millionaire, if not billionaire, here in the Silicon Valley. And I just listened. And I think that the man just wanted someone just to listen to him. And because I was this young soul, I'm just a learner. I just want to learn and listen, because I learned from that. And again, it seems to be a pattern. People that come in my life that are older with experience, they speak to me, and I just learn, listen, and absorb. And then I take action from what they say. And I remember one day I told him, I said, Walt, I would love to take your building. I would love to create the Silicon Valley's first ultra lounge. And this is what I have. This is the vision. And these are the people that I'm working with. I had brought the number one construction company in the Bay Area, if not the United States. It's called DevCon Construction. I had met the owner of DevCon, and I met one of the project managers. So he knew that, wow, this kid is associated with these kind of people. And and I didn't even know at the time DevCon or whoever, and but by just chance, those were the people that were aligning with me. And I told Walt, I said, Walt, I shook his hand, and I said, trust in me that I'm going to deliver one of the greatest shows and greatest venues the Silicon Valley has ever had. 2004, July 29th, 2004 was the grand opening of the Vault Ultra Lounge. And I was in debt $1 million. I went in and borrowed money from everyone and anyone. And on grand opening day, I was sold out for the next I was sold out 3 months in advance for the next 2 years. Paid back my $1 million in within 8 months. Made my first million in 2004. 25 years old. 2008, multimillionaire, driving a Ferrari, living a life of excess. And all I knew growing up was success, but in a forward climbing manner. And I never knew what real failure was until 2008. So I enjoyed all these years of greatness. And so during my nightlife time, again, going back to some of my roots, real estate popped back into my life. I found a mentor who started mentoring me in real estate. And in 2005, that year, our team, we made $9 million that year, just myself and my team. I closed over 360 deals. I was doing a deal a day. And that's just how.
The time that you were also building out and starting the club, right?
Yeah. So I tell people, I said I was Bruce Wayne during the day and Batman at night, because it was the truth. I mean, I was building. I was not unfocused. I was very laser focused on what I wanted. And really what I was doing is I was feeding my fears of being poor and homeless and broke and not ever having. So that obsession became a ruler of myself and my mind, which later was my biggest downfall, because in 2008, when the real estate market and the stock markets and the world took a dive, my world came tumbling down, because I thought, well, if the stock market is going to take a shit, I'm not worried. And real estate, I'm not going to worry about it, because people are going to go out and have fun and drink, whether they're happy or they're sad or depressed, they're going to come out and drink. But in realization, I had built such a high-end nightclub that the people that I was attracting were all people that cared and understood the value of money. So their disposable income was no longer on buying martinis and popping bottles. I mean, we had a lot of celebrities that came through my place. Black Eyed Peas, every time that they were in town, they came through my place. Madonna, when she performed at the SAP Center or the Compaq Center, which was known back then. U2, all the famous comedians that were in town. Jamie Foxx would come in through the place. I mean, we had a motto that was similar to Las Vegas. What happens in the vault stays in the vault. So people knew that there was a lot of great things and great stories that were shared in the vault, and that they would never be, exposed. Not only that, though, social media wasn't a big thing, and phones weren't as high tech as they are today. I mean, you got iPhones that have, I mean, look at the world today that we're living in. I mean, there's just this information flows so quickly that you can't get away with it. So the world was a different time, and
so it was a safe haven for these celebrities.
Yes,
and then of course the cachet of I'm going to go hang out in the same place where the celebrities hang out.
Yeah,
and then when the market and the real estate market and everything crashed, these folks said, I'm not going to spend the money on this anymore. Is that what's happening?
They didn't have it. I mean, it was, I remember one time, true story. There was Baron Davis. He was a former Golden State Warrior here in the Bay Area. And I remember, we were jam-packed, and one night, and somebody tapped on my shoulder. I was running my front door, and I glanced, and I recognized the face, because he had a beard, and he was with an agent or a friend. And it was about 11 o'clock. We're jam-packed. We're at a peak, and the guy says, hey, we'd like to come on in. And I glanced, and I saw the gentleman was wearing white tennis shoes. Well, we don't allow white tennis shoes or tennis shoes in the club, and there's a reason for it. Not because we're hating on the tennis shoes. It's because in a nightclub, when you're packed and people are drinking and having fun, people will bump into you. Drinks are spilling all the time, and if you're wearing white shoes, you want to keep your shoes clean. So the nightclubs are the wrong place to come with white tennis shoes. Now, people don't understand the philosophy or the idea behind it. So I'm sharing it with you guys out right now that don't wear white tennis shoes to an entertainment venue because there's shit flying all over the place. There's drinks, there's food, there's, just, it's not appropriate. So it wasn't that I didn't want the person in because I was like, hey, he's a celebrity. And I told the guy, I said, look, sorry, man, it's not going to happen tonight. He goes, you know who this is? I said, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I go, it's not going to happen tonight. We don't allow white tennis shoes. He goes, this is Baron Davis. I said, look, man, I don't give a shit who it is right now. I said, we're packed. I go, I can appreciate it. Unless he's got another pair of shoes in the car, he's not coming in with white tennis shoes. Now, I wasn't going to turn around and explain to him why we don't allow white tennis shoes. We don't have the time, Well, within 15 minutes, my phone starts to ring, and this is about 11:30, and it says Chicago. I'm like, Chicago? I'm like, that's some gangster shit right there. I'm like, who's calling me from Chicago and has my number? So I'm like, hello? And they're like, hi, my name is Win Silverman. I'll never forget him. He was an agent, and I knew him because he would come to the club. He goes, hey, this is Win. He goes, I understand one of my players are outside. And I said, who's that? He goes, Baron. And I said, oh, yeah, he's not coming in. He says, no. He has to come in. I said, well, we're sold out. We don't have any tables. He's not coming in. He's like, look, man, you got a couple of my other athletes in there because the 49ers, the Raiders, the Giants, the A's, they would all come in. They knew that this was a safe haven for them, too. So, and at the time, too, we had a couple of other athletes that were in there. We had some UFC fighters, Chuck Liddell. I mean, he was a champion at the time. So we had all these people that were in there. And I said, look, buddy, he's not coming in. He goes, look, what is it going to take? So I wanted to be a smartass. And I said, it's going to cost $5,000, man. He's going to have to buy a table, and we don't have tables, but I'll make a table for him. And he's like, great. How do I get you paid? And I said, oh shit, this guy called me out on my bluff. Like this was a real, cool. I'm like, okay, hold on. I radioed my guy. I said, hey, come over here. Do me a favor. I said, go downstairs in my office. We had these $10 IKEA tables. True story. These $10 IKEA, they're little 12 by 12 tables. They're made out of some real cheap compressed wood. And I told my guy, I said, hey, do me a favor, go downstairs, put a table together, put it next to my table, the owner's table. I said, put it next to the table. It's $5,000 for these two guys. I guess they have some friends. Guy pulled out the guy, the agent that was with them, pulled out a credit card, a Black American Express. Boom, $5,000 came in, called it a night. And that's just how we rolled. And then, eventually at the end of the night, he was complaining because his damn tennis shoes got dirty. And we all laughed about it. But I told him, no white tennis shoes. So, but yeah, that was the kind of the craziness that we had. I mean, every night was Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. It was like an exotic car show out there. Our Ferraris were parked, Lamborghinis, Bentleys. I mean, it was truly a peak here in the Silicon Valley before the 2007, because it wasn't 2008 when it actually blew up. It started crumbling fourth quarter of 2006, 2007, and then 2008 when the world just went upside down completely.
So tell us the that chapter. So you're driving around in your Ferrari, was it, or Lamborghini? What was it?
No, Ferrari 360 convertible Spider, baby. Yeah.
You're driving around in your Ferrari Spider. You're Bruce Wayne by day, Batman by night, experiencing all the let's just call them trappings.
Yes.
Life. And then it all went away.
Yes.
It all came crashing down.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I want to hear because the crash is important too, because
yes,
we all experience that to some degree or another, maybe not with the same the same level of intensity.
Yes.
But I'm curious, while you were driving around the streets of San Jose and San Francisco with the top down in your Spider, was there ever any inkling, any premonition that you had that said,
I know where you're going,
it's all gonna go away, there's something is not entirely right here?
Steve, you just gave me chills, man. No. Life, I was certain in my life, and I thought to myself, this is life, this is forever, and nothing is gonna come in the way. I was so arrogant, Steve, that I would scream to the universe, World, you can take it all away from me today, and I'll have it back tomorrow. Well, the universe heard me.
Well, it's like the same dynamic when you said one day that building will be mine.
Yes, sir.
It came into play here, just
yes, sir.
Not in the best possible way.
Words are powerful, and I've learned that now very well. I'm very careful with my words because I know that my words are power. What we speak to outward will come back. I've learned that through my journey, and I had to learn that through losing it all. I want to just share a highlight. This was how crazy life was. Out of all the celebrities that came through my place, the one that got me excited the most, and I took one picture with, was Manolo from Scarface. Because that was one of my favorite all-time movies was Scarface. Why? Because the world was mine.
Right.
And out of all the celebrities that came in through my place, even though I had a phone, I always wanted to protect the integrity and the people that came in through my place. So I wasn't a groupie in any way. I treated them respectfully as if, hey, you're like me. I'm a celebrity in my own way. In my mind, that's how crazy I was, right? But it was so crazy that when he came to, they were filming in San Francisco, and he came to my club. That was the only person that I got super excited. I had to take a picture with him because I'm now hanging out with Manolo from Scarface on my club, super excited about it. And I remember that night I couldn't even sleep because it was just exciting to be with him. Along with that, I remember in my home, I lived I had a beautiful loft that I owned in Japantown here in San Jose. I had a 350-gallon saltwater fish tank with a baby black-tipped shark in it. And those were the trappings that I was falling into that I was not paying attention to. Steve, I'm telling you, I was so cocky, so arrogant. I was such a fucking asshole to the world and so disrespectful to all the great things that I was blessed with at the time that I was not paying attention to it, that I got blinded by that. And when the world turned upside down, I had no way of controlling the downfall. I felt like I was in the movie of Top Gun when Maverick gets into the tailspin and his plane, and that's how I felt. I was in a complete tailspin downward, and there was no stopping. All the alleged friends, everyone that I felt that I could rely on my way down, I was grasping. I was just grasping in the air, just trying to grasp onto whomever and whatever to try to save myself, and not realizing all the hurt and things that I had done to people on my way up, because I was so blinded by my success that giving back to the community wasn't even anything for me. I always say there's a pre-2008 Mauricio, and then there's a post-2008 Mauricio. And the pre-2008 Mauricio, I was so lost in my own sauce, Steve, that it was crazy. And that's what inspired me to put it into my book, Smoke and Mirrors. If you look at the cover, the mirror ball is the mirrors in the nightlife scene. That the mirror ball represents the nightclub in the industry, and what we do is we create that illusion so that when you come to our venues, you get lost, and you get lost for a couple of hours. And what was I doing? I was enabling bad behavior, drinking, partying, all kinds of just craziness. And what I wasn't doing, I wasn't feeding my soul anymore. I was lost. I fell into a trap. Like you said, I fell into those trappings. And in my mind, I thought this was forever. I mean, I was making money left and right. I didn't care. And then, the first one that went down was the real estate market. The mortgage industry took a big dive because all the mortgage, all the fraud that was being created by the mortgage industry. And, in my heart too, I knew that some people that couldn't afford those homes should have never been in homes, but I was never on the mortgage side. I was always on the real estate transaction side and on the development side. So I don't want to say I didn't care, but I had a rule, and it was crazy. It was a true rule. I'd ask a client 3 times, are you sure that you can afford this? Are you sure that you want this? And are you ready to commit to this? And if they answer those 3 questions and they gave me yes, then I felt that I did my part to validate that they were ready. Whether they were lying to me or not, that was their decision and their commitment to execute and move forward with it. So I let them be. And then 2008 came, and I remember free falling. I remember waking up to a phone call from the IRS, a phone call from the State Board of Equalization, and then a phone call from my landlord, all asking for money. And I was wondering, wait a minute, where's all the money that we've been making to pay these bills? And then I found out that there was a break in my foundation with my partnership, and then 2008 really woke me up. So and I remember the day waking up so hungover because I was so depressed, thinking. And I remember that my club, the numbers went down, and people, like, I remember one time this gentleman was standing up at the mezzanine with me. I'm looking down. I'm like, where's everybody at? Like, where are people at? And he said to me, he looked at me, he goes, man, Mauricio, he goes, you got a weird energy about you right now. He goes, and he walked away. I was like, wow, what an asshole. Like, you could have comforted me. You could offer me a drink or something. And no, man, that was the beginning of where the new journey was going for me. And I remember that when I returned the keys back to the landlord of the club, and it was a great run. I remember when I lost my home. I remember when my cars got impounded, not impounded, they got repoed because I couldn't afford the payments anymore. I couldn't afford anything. I couldn't afford my home. I lost everything. Everything that I feared came back to haunt me. And that arrogance about me, that humility that I didn't have, was now being born in me. And it was really what took me to really go into a very deep soul searching for myself, and had to peel all these layers like an onion to get to the core. During all these times, I was always doing, on the surface, I was always trying to do personal development. I was a big Tony Robbins. Again, Tony Robbins has been I've been following him all my life. I had other people that I was listening to, but I remember that was part of the balance, because, after those long nights of the nightclub, I would go home by myself. I was as much as people thought that I was, always cool and being around, it was a very lonely life for me, because I'd go home by myself. It was smoke and mirrors. It was a facade.
So now, the crash, you've lost everything. You lost the home, the business, all these debts. What did life look like for you at that point?
I was grasping for air. I was trying to find my bearings. Life was. I remember I remember waking up one morning, literally in my shower, on my knees, butt naked, crying, asking God, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do? And basically, I was cutting a deal with God to get me back on track, because I was so lost I was just so lost. My mind was clouded. My focus was off. That little boy, that Mauricio, that was driven for other reasons, was lost. I had covered all those pains with so much layers of just bullshit. People fed me so much bullshit in my life, telling me what I wanted to hear versus telling me what I should have or needed to hear, the truth, that I was full of shit. and that I just had to find myself. And I remember when I lost everything, I gave the keys back. I'll never forget the date, April 4th of 2009. And I don't forget dates like this. They're memorialized in my mind. I remember giving back the industry was giving they were calling it cash for keys. So they would give you like a $5,000 check so you can get out of the property, so that these banks can get back into these homes, get them ready for market, and then sell them. And I remember that I gave my keys for $5,000, and I looked at I had a cargo van at the time, and I had packed as much as I can in my cargo van, and I was homeless again. I was living.
You lived in your van after?
Yeah.
For how?
I basically started couch surfing. I moved in with a couple of, I was jumping from place to place with friends. From 2010, 9, 10, 11, 12, I was very unstable home-wise. I didn't have a place to stay. I ended up moving back to Los Angeles with my sister, who to this day has, she's done very well for herself. And I remember moving back into a 10 by 10 extra bedroom that she had in her house. And that's where I really started to peel away these layers and this garbage in my life. I'm a visual person, so I had a whiteboard, some whiteboard markers, and I started to write out my plan again. And I started to throw it out to the universe. 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. I think I did like a 10-year plan. And I said, I'm going to start at 150,000, 250,000, 350,000. Then I got to $1 million. Then I got to to $500,000, then to $1 million. And then I put $1 billion. And I projected all of that. In 2012, I got my break back in San Jose. I moved back to San Jose. I opened up a restaurant called Chacho's with a partner of mine, Mexican restaurant that I've been around for many years. He had a falling out with a partner. I partnered up with him, and life started again for me. And in 2013, I knew that I wanted more in my life. And in January 1st, 2014, I got my big break, and I launched, which you mentioned earlier, California Labor Force, which that company lasted with me for 6 years. And last year, we would have made $100 million in business. And that business is gone. I've moved on. I've launched another company called CalX, similar to that. But I've learned from that lesson as well, and that's inspired me to write my new book that we're working on, Still Standing, Beyond Smoke and Mirrors, because life doesn't stop, Steve. Life continues. Success is not defined by an end result. To me, success is a journey, not a destination. So life continues, and I want to continue to make an impact. And so my experiences are that. And today, I'm very blessed to be a part of I'm a co-founder of a media company called Latin Live. I've worked the vice president of a commercial construction company called Cal Pacific. I'm the president of CalX, which will be the next largest staffing company in California after we get out of this pandemic. I published my book, Smoke and Mirrors, right before the pandemic started. And during the pandemic, Kristen and I, which you know Kristen, we worked on Decide, Commit, Execute, and that was published during the pandemic, COVID-19. And a lot of things have happened and transpired. And, I want to share my story with the world to inspire, to motivate, but really to make an impact and see if my story resonates with people so that they can change.
So a couple of things that occur to me. When you were talking about, again, I have that image of you driving in your Ferrari and saying, you know what, you could take all of this away from me and I'll build it back. Well, as it turns out, that's what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
So it was all, you could say, taken away from you, or just, I mean, we could get philosophical about that part, but it did go away. Yes. Whether it was consciously taken away from you or not, it did go away, and you are building it back.
I am. And I think...
But building it back from a different place internally.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right? So how would you describe your internal environment now versus the first, monetary uphill climb?
I'm gonna say a quote that I've learned from... we have a common friend, Stedman Graham. I started working with him last year, and I built a very great relationship and friendship with Stedman. And his quote is, "In order to lead others, you must learn to lead yourself first. And in order to have those kind of traits, you must come from a place of love." You must learn to love yourself first before you can learn to love others or embrace others. Steve, I would be lying to you. I didn't love myself when I was saying things like, I can lose it all today and get it back tomorrow. I didn't love myself. I didn't respect what I had. I didn't appreciate the blessings that I had then. So what I did was I was almost like throwing a positive and a negative out, and or a negative with a positive. I was taking away and then trying to get back for myself. And so the universe heard my arrogance, but the universe also heard that I was just kidding. I'm going to build it. I'm going to get it back. And that's what I'm going through. And I come from a place now of respect. I honor, I'm grateful, very grateful for the things that I have. I'm very blessed to have the things that I have. And for me, it's not about what it does for me, but what can I do with what I have to make an impact and give back. What I've learned, and there's this, the secret, what I've learned out of this, however they want to label it, the secret, at least in my version of understanding, is that the more that I've given back outward, the more that I have received inwardly. The more love that I've given out, the more love I get in. And now I'm working on myself every day because I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I still got things and issues that I'm still going through. Writing my books have been therapy for me. If you read the unedited version of Smoke and Mirrors, you'd be like, that's the one that I want to. That's the one that I want. But I had to clean it up because it's not for everyone to have to understand. It'll be in the movies. We'll glamorize it in the movies, but in the book, I didn't want it. And then Decide, Commit, Execute was, again, my principles of what I've done in business. So, but I come from a place of love and understanding and respect for the things that I have today, because when you disrespect it, there's consequences.
So what is next on your trajectory, right? So bring us into your vision for where you're going with your business and also with your contribution to the community.
Well, one of the things, I'm a big advocate for the homeless community because I've lived it, maybe not to certain extremes. I work with a local pastor here in San Jose where we do cleanups for camps. We provide food for the homeless community. It's that in itself is a pandemic that there just seems to be no solution on the horizon because it's something that has been going on for many, many years, hundreds of years. But I want to do my part in giving back to that community and helping and seeing hope and hoping that someone can climb their way out of that hole. Others is abused children, abused kids. We didn't touch on that, but I have as a child, there was things that I had experienced that to this day I'm still dealing with, and more it's just internal. But I think that children are sacred. They're our future, and we have to nurture them and protect them from people that are predators or people that cause harm. Whether it's bullying or physical abuse from adults or from people that do it to children. It's a tragedy, and it scars people. It scars us. And those are things that have continued to fuel me in my journey. So my goal, and I throw it out to the universe, is I want to become one of the. There's been others, but I want to be one of the Latino billionaires coming out of the Silicon Valley through one of my ventures or collectively. And again, it's not because of the title of the billionaire, but it's how much more of an impact can I make with the resources that I have. And and let's just say if I don't make it to there, I'm still going to make an impact either way because that's my goal. I mean, I just want to set a higher standard for myself so that I know that I'm competing against myself. I'm not competing against the outside world. I'm competing against myself. And that's what drives me. I'm going to hit that because I'm going to hit it because I want to hit it because it's something that it's in my heart. It's ingrained in my heart. It's my passion. And because I know that once I get to that point, that the impact that I can make is a lot bigger. You know what? And I'll throw it out to the universe. When I get to that point, I want to give it all away to the people that really need it to make a better impact in their lives, because I'm not going to be able to take it down underground with me. And, I'll make sure that I set it up for my children as well. But at the same time, I wanted to help the community, whether it's local, regional, national, or globally. And that's my journey. And that's my mission.
That's fantastic. So the enterprise is, we bring this in for a landing. Let's just get a snapshot of where you are right now with your business enterprise that's going to enable you to do all those wonderful things for the community. You've got Latin Live, which is the media company.
Yes.
And we'll put a link to that in the post along with that, right?
Yes.
And you also have is there another construction company you said?
So I have the construction company, which is not my bread and butter. I'm a partner on that, and I would call it a co-founder, vice president. But really, my runway is CalX, which is California Labor Exchange, and that is the one where I get to help people have a second chance in the workforce, in the community. We're focused in the construction industry because I understand the construction industry very well. We're specific in what we do, but if I was to put it in order, it would be CalX, Latin Live, Cal Pacific, and then my own personal, brand, Mauricio Mejia, which is, the speaking, the books, and all the other things that come along with me.
Fantastic. Well, wow, what a great journey. Thank you so much for allowing us to participate in some way with you in that. Thank you for sharing with such depth and honesty. And one last question. I mean, I want to make sure that people know how to get a hold of you. So let's hear that. If somebody wants to have a conversation, learn about what you're doing, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I'm going to give you the best way, Mauricio Mejia San Jose on Google, and you will find me. I have been very public since day one. I've never hidden. There might be some things that pop up, but the good, the bad, the ugly.
But some things.
Yeah, well, I was young back in the day, and people like to make allegations of things, whatever. I mean, it's all bullshit anyway. So, the higher you climb, the more people want to hate on you. But you can find me on YouTube. I have my YouTube channel, Mauricio Mejia. I do a weekly show on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live. It's called Mauricio Mejia Live. You can go to my website, mauriciomejia.live. That'll go to my website, and it'll give you to all my social handles. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on a community channel where you can subscribe to my text messaging. I'm on Amazon with my 2 books. So I'm again, the best way, Mauricio Mejia San Jose, and on Google, and you'll find me everywhere. And then you'll even find some of my projects that I've worked on, my real estate developments, construction stuff. I mean, you'll get to learn. Even my cell phone pops up in there. There's no secret. So the only thing that I ask is that if you call me on my cell phone, don't call to bullshit with me. Call me to talk about real business. I have the courage and the guts to really ask intelligent questions. If you want to call and gossip or crank call me or whatever, I don't know. Don't waste your time. So, but I'm open like that. I have some entrepreneurs that I work with right now that I'm guiding, and there's a couple multi-million-dollar businesses that I'm working with other entrepreneurs of their own. All I'm doing is advising them, and I'm guiding them through the pitfalls so they don't make the same mistakes that I did at a young age.
So that leads me to one more question that we'll wrap this with.
Yes.
Given everything that you've learned on your journey so far, and obviously we all have more to learn, right? If I'm in a situation right now, maybe it's because of the pandemic or any other reason where I'm really having to rebuild or build for the first time a future for myself, what advice can you give me in terms of just setting my own internal course for that?
I'm going to tell you what I've done, and I think that this will resonate with people. When the pandemic hit, for us, it was March 13th. It was a Friday when they put a shelter-in-place order. We had to shut down our restaurants. It was like this was the beginning of the snowball. The first 2 weeks, it was kind of unknown. Then week number 3, 4 was like, whoa, this is really happening. And then week number 4 and 6 was like, oh shit, this is serious now. And I had to really slow down. I had to assess what is on the table. What do I have? How am I going to navigate? Because what has happened is everything now has come down to an equal playing field. So even the big companies, the guys we were competing against or things that we were doing, everyone now has been leveled out. We're in ground zero now. How we're going to survive out of this is by educating ourselves, by building a stronger mental toughness. We have to recalibrate ourselves. We have to educate ourselves. We have to learn. We have to read. We have to really think about what we want and not take this as I'm going to take a break. No, there's no break here. This is really where you have to really hone in on your skill set. And if you don't have one, learn one. And if you haven't learned, go get one. But this is an opportunity to really come out of this pandemic or this time in our life, to come out with a different outlook and really just, again, the best word that I can use, and Stedman was the one that told me this one when we talked, recalibrate. We have to recalibrate. The world has changed. We're doing now things on Zoom. The tools were there for us a long time ago. Skype has been around for a long time, but we never utilized them until now. Necessity is the mother of invention. We are here now. We need to take advantage of the tools that we have in our hands. Unfortunately, the younger generation right now is not going to get it, but as us, the older generation, it's our responsibility to try to educate the younger ones, the ones that want to learn, like the kid that when I was young and I wanted to learn, I listened and I learned and I applied. Right now, take advantage of the time, because we will not in our lifetime have another experience like this for a very, very long time. So this is a great opportunity for us to, again, recalibrate, retool ourselves, prepare ourselves. Because nothing is forever. When we get out of this, depending on how you've trained yourself or retooled yourself, you're going to come out ahead. It's either you're going to be slow out the gate, or you're going to come out jamming fast and furious, and you'll be successful. So I know that that's working for me. I mean, people are saying, Mauricio, how did you publish a book during the pandemic? Well, I did it. That's what I did. I did it. I didn't make any excuses. Now, I'm not, I might have not gotten the traction or go out and be able to talk about it, but I got 2 books now that I can say I published, and that I'm ready that once this stuff gets out, I'm going to be able to start hitting those stages and start sharing my story with people, because I've done all the infrastructure work to get me to where I'm at. And not only just with that, but all my other businesses as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And you know what? Not only is it great advice for the times in which we're having this conversation, otherwise known as the pandemic, but it's great advice for any time you find yourself in that trough, as it were, where we're having to recalibrating and reimagining and retraining and refocusing ourselves is a great strategy for any setback. It's just,
yes.
This current situation is bringing it ever more into focus. So
yes.
Thanks for setting us in the right direction. It's been a real pleasure, man. I'm so glad we had this conversation, and I look forward to more. Thanks.
I want to leave off with a quote that again, my mentor, my friend Stedman, we talked about it the other day, and he said it. He said, "You must create success to have success. You must create success to have success." success is not just there for us. You, everyone out there, you must create it, your version of it, whatever it may be. You have to create it in order to have it. So if you're wishing on the star or all these other things, you're gonna continue to be wishing. But if you don't create it, make your decision, commit to your decision, and then execute on it, I don't know what to say. And I hope if it's not me, that someone else on a show or on anything else may turn on that switch one day, because we all have switches. And it just takes one experience, one person, something in life to just turn that on. So, yeah. Steve, I want to say thank you very much, sir. You're amazing. I wish you luck on everything that you're doing. You have my full-on support with everything that you're doing. I love your mission and your journey as well. And you can count me as not only as a new friend, but as an advocate of what you're doing to the world.
Thank you. I'm honored by that. And folks, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast. And until next time, remember to do what you love in the service of people who love what you do.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Love is Just Damn Good Business with Steve Farber. Join us again next time, because when customer and employee satisfaction just isn't enough anymore, we are here to back you up with specific ideas to operationalize love to make an enormous difference in your business, personal life, and the world around you. Visit our website at stevefarber.com to leave a review. And don't forget to share the love with your colleagues and friends, because after all, it's just damn good business.